Well, the African National Congress's National Executive Committee is meeting this weekend ahead of its national elective conference set to take place next month. Now, some of these speculated top agenda topics include the upcoming conference, but as well as President Cyril Ramaphosa's Phala Phala farm robbery answers at the Integrity Commission. Ramaphosa is, however, said to have received a gag order from the Public Protector's Office, preventing him from speaking on a matter that is currently under investigation, thus further delaying the work of the Commission from making any sort of resolution or conclusions on the matter. Well, to talk to us about what they make of these recent developments in the party and what the ANC needs to focus on in the lead-up to the elective conference is ANC veteran and political commentator Omry Makgoale. Tate Omry, thank you so much for your time and thank you for joining us on our platform this morning. Given the developments overnight, the Integrity Commission distancing itself from this business regarding a leaked draft report, what do you make of those developments? The Commission certainly seems to think that there's a force or a faction or an individual or an outlying group that is trying to undermine its recommendations moving forward.
Yes, I think ideally we should have waited for the formal press release from the Integrity Commission rather than the leaked documents. Never mind the contents of the document. I wouldn't go into whether the contents of the documents are right or wrong, but the idea is that the Integrity Commission should have a formal press release statement to say these are its findings, because the President is the head of the state and the head of the Republic, so he's an important person in terms of the Republic of South Africa. So a press release statement would have been required from the Integrity Commission to actually formally say what their findings are. And I think that now that it appears this document or report has been leaked, it's unfortunate. It shows how the ANC internally does no longer have internal disciplines properly. And because of the factions and slates, and some factions might have thought that it would be advantageous for them to release it, to leak this document. It's just disappointing on our side.
Well, members of the NEC are meeting today. It's the second day of its three-day meeting, and we know that President Cyril Ramaphosa's answer to the Integrity Commission is expected to be top of the agenda. What are you expecting to learn from what the Integrity Committee has been able, the work that it's been able to undertake throughout this entire process? I mean, there have been a number of pressing issues around the Phala Phala farm robbery, issues around the foreign currency that was discovered on the president's property, issues around the robbery itself and whether or not there was an obligation on the part of the president to actually report the crime. What do you think are the sort of pressing issues that the committee absolutely needs to address in its report in order for the organization and the NEC to feel as though it's really got a handle on what's happening with its president and this entire saga?
I think what is important is that the NEC must show to everybody that everybody is treated equal before the law inside the ANC, and everybody has got a fair hearing inside the ANC. So the NEC has got that responsibility, that obligation to show that it is balanced and fair to everybody in the NEC, so in the ANC. And so, I don't know, they will have to find a way of handling this, showing that the other comrades within the NEC who are implicated in other things also feel that they have been treated fairly. Because if there is one law for the president and one law for the secretary general, one law for so-and-so, it's not good for the ANC. So, and the ANC cannot afford to be in that mode, in that fashion, So we need fairness inside the ANC. So as to how they are going to handle it at the moment, I don't know, because you see here there's the legal issues and moral issues. In terms of ANC moral issues, what the president has done, of course, has been disappointing. In terms of ANC moral issues, we would have expected better behavior from him as the number one citizen in the country and as the number one in terms of our ethics in the ANC. We have leaders in the past, Chief Albert Bituli, Nelson Mandela, O.R. Tambo. These are leaders who set the standards for us. for what we should expect from leaders inside the ANC. And we would have expected that the current president must meet those standards, must live up to those ethical standards. So it is slightly disappointing for some of us.
I mean, you mentioned that you don't really know what the Integrity Commission's findings are, obviously, and how it plans to handle some of the questions that have come to the fore since the beginning of this entire Phala Phala farm theft saga. But we've already heard criticisms from former presidents of the African National Congress, particularly around Ramaphosa's taciturn approach, his unresponsiveness to the issue. Criticism from the likes of former President Kgalema Motlanthe saying that the fact that he refuses to be more transparent on this issue is in fact damaging the ANC. He's not mincing his words there. Is it fair to expect similar sentiments from the Integrity Commission?
I'm not sure what the Integrity Commission's take is, but of course the idea is that at one stage he has to be frank and open to the NEC so that they can trust what he says as the president. You see, he has to be frank and open, and as long as they don't know there are many questions unanswered because whatever maybe is gagged or whatever the reasons, there will continue to be some mistrust from amongst NEC members who don't know the actual facts. Because once you don't know what the actual facts are, then you live on rumors and speculations, and that's not good when that is at the hand of ANC president. That's not good. So I understand what Comrade Kgalema is saying about the situation. It would have been, we would have preferred otherwise, that the president does not have such a Phala Phala story hanging over his neck. We would have preferred that. Unfortunately, it's not like that at the moment.
If indeed the NEC emerges at the end of this weekend with no clear answers from the party's president, and as you have suggested, there is the creation of this trust deficit amongst senior members of the party, individuals who form part of the highest decision-making body of the organization, what sort of impact do you think that's likely to have on the party's elective conference come December?
Yeah, I don't think, when I look at it, I don't think there will be much impact on the elective conference in December, because inside the ANC at the moment, the way the ANC elections are run, it's no longer ethical as it was in the past, and it's more about who's got a good budget for, bribing the delegates to the conference. It's not much about ethics in my mind. So I don't think it will have much impact in the December conference, But down the line, there will be an impact if, the legal processes find out that the president actually broke the law. That will be something different. But that will be when the judges have finished their work and they've pronounced as to what actually happened with the President Phala Phala story. Once they find that the law has been broken, then things will be different. But for now, I don't think there will be any impact on the conference in December. I don't think so.
Well, I mean, there is another deadline that's fast approaching, and that is for Parliament's Section 89 independent panel, that three-member panel that is currently carrying out its own investigations. It, of course, received submissions from the President last week after he met that deadline, and it's due to hand over its own report to National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Makgoale. Should the independent panel find that there is, in fact, impeachable conduct on the part of the president, and it finds that prima facie evidence, what is the next step for the African National Congress from that point onwards?
Yeah, I would think that, as I say, everybody must be treated fairly inside the ANC. There must be equality before the law. If we find that there is serious problems that with regard to the president, ideally he should step aside, like Ace Magashule or any other body who has stepped aside for whatever reason. If we find that he did break the law, and that's important. So whatever the report will be like, if the report establishes that the president did break the law, it will be expected that he should step aside, in my mind. But as to whether the NEC will think that way, it's another matter.
Well, if that's the case, then should the ANC Integrity Commission have should it have set out this entire process and allowed independent institutions, law enforcement agencies to carry out their investigations and come to some sort of conclusion? Because perhaps whatever findings it may come to may result to naught, really, given the fact that we're still hinging on whatever comes out of these other investigations and these other inquiries being carried out by Parliament.
Yes, you are right. But you see, the idea is that ANC Integrity Commission is intended to check the morality of ANC leaders. It's intended to make sure that the leaders of ANC have got integrity. It's not really intended to deal with criminal law and people who have violated the law in terms of the Constitution of South Africa. The Integrity Commission is intended to make sure that leaders of ANC behave in a proper way, in line with through the eye of the needle. That is where, the Integrity Commission should be taking its tune from. But now, in this case, of course, we have these investigations from the police, the Hawks, and that's another matter altogether. So we should differentiate that the Integrity Commission is intended for ANC moral ethics, not really the law in terms of criminal law or civil law in terms of the South African Constitution. That's my understanding at the moment.
All right. Well, Dr. Omry, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us on our platform this morning and taking us through the nuts and bolts of that conversation. ANC veteran and political commentator Omry Makgoale there. Well, up next.